Hello and welcome to another Masters Qualifier meta report here on the Tempo Strategy channel. It's been a while since we revisited this series, but with the release of Scholomance Academy and the new meta that came along with it, it seems like a great time to do just that. As usual, the meta picture we will be looking at will come from each of the 15 victorious lineups, which provides a nice mix of analysis of what you can expect to see and what you can expect to succeed with. Before we jump into the video, we'd like to remind you to subscribe to the channel and turn notifications on to stay up to date with all of our Hearthstone content. Now let's begin. With the new meta still developing, you might think it difficult to nail down just one standard lineup, but that isn't really the case right now. Of the 15 qualifier winning lineups, 8 had Soul Demon Hunter, 10 had a warrior deck, either Tempo or Bomb, and 11 had one of a variety of the aggressive rogue lists which have been going around. While these 3 most popular archetypes only actually combined into the same lineup 3 times overall, they are simply so prevalent that you should expect to be seeing at least one and probably 2 of them in any given lineup. Perhaps the biggest surprise when looking at the most common lineups is what is not included. In 15 lineups, there were a total of only 6 priests and 5 druids, with only 2 lineups playing both of those decks. This is very strange considering that both on ladder and in best of 5 formats, druid and priest perform very well, but as it turns out, in best of 3 it is just a little too easy to target them, especially since the vast majority of lineups currently included aggressive rogue lists, which perform well against both of those classes. This is about all we can say about the standard lineups for now, as this is sort of the meta where you can throw together any 3 decks into a lineup simply for their power level against the meta without worrying too much about targeting and lineup construction. This is why we are seeing a lot of variety in what decks are paired with each other, despite not seeing a huge variety of different deck archetypes overall. Next up, we have our segment on the most unique lineup, which, despite seeing a couple other cool things like a Malygos Druid and a Zoo Warlock, was kind of an automatic decision. And that choice is this lineup coming from this APAC player. 2 of the decks, the Soul Demon Hunter and the Bomb Warrior, are quite standard, but the third deck is very unusual. This deck would still be classified as Turtle Mage, a situationally strong but seldom seen mage archetype which Eddie HS has been succeeding with in Hearthstone Grandmasters as of late. However, this same APAC players list is even more odd. It includes the mage quest, Raid the Sky Temple, with no intention of ever completing it in order to enable questing explorer and licensed adventurer. It doesn't seem particularly likely that this trade-off is worth it, especially in a deck which really needs to find specific cards on time and which can struggle in the early game. However, this is certainly an interesting experimental list and lineup, and it clearly had success in this case. Looking at what counters the meta is a little weird right now, as the Masters Qualifier meta is already essentially a counter meta to what you would expect to see on ladder. If what you're seeing in these qualifiers includes a lot of druid and priest, then almost all of the other popular decks are good options: rogue, demon hunter, bomb warrior, tempo mage, and even the exotic mount seller build of animal druid. The one deck which has popped up as a counter to this counter meta has been tempo warrior. Tempo warrior struggles mightily against both druid and priest, but is favored against soul demon hunter, bomb warrior, and any sort of rogue. As long as the standard lineup we mentioned earlier remains popular, tempo warrior is a great bring. Interestingly, you can actually still bring priest too, because if you tech in multiple ways to remove your opponent's weapons, it can perform pretty well against both bomb warrior and rogue. This probably means that Highlander priest is a better option than Galakrond priest, since Zephyrs the Great functions as a weapon removal, and there is more space in the Highlander list to fit acidic swamp ooze. As long as you bring weapon removals to answer the standard lineup, priest is actually a nice bring since it beats druid as well. Just be prepared for your qualifiers to be much slower paced if you're willing to bring priest. Let's finish off this video as we usually do by recommending a couple of winning lineups we believe you are most likely to succeed with. First up, we have this standard lineup from Insane. Since it opts for Egg Warrior instead of Bomb Warrior, it will be favored in the mirrors against other standard lineups and should perform totally fine against the rest of the meta as well. Keep in mind that both Control Demon Hunter and Egg Warrior can be difficult to play, so if you've never tried them before, you might want to practice them for a while beforehand. The second lineup we'll be recommending was played by Fanboy and includes both Druid and Priest. However, he does opt for the Mount Seller Druid and Highlander Priest builds, which as mentioned earlier perform much better against Rogue and Bomb Warrior. The one issue with this lineup is the lack of acidic swamp ooze in the Highlander Priest, but that change is easy enough to make on your own. That brings us to the end of this Masters Qualifier meta analysis. Is this a series you'd like to see more frequently, or do you like seeing it only once every new meta? Let us know how you feel about it in the comments, and please remember to like the video if you enjoyed it, as well as to subscribe to the Tempo Strategy channel for plenty more Hearthstone content.